Hi, welcome to Detours,
We can do that.
All right.
Let me finish chewing my Skittles.
Hey there, welcome to Detours.
We're back. Isolation edition.
I was going to say, you would think it was just quarantine edition instantly dating us. But, honestly, with us living as far apart as we do now, this is a much more reasonable way to do Detours. I'm just on a leisurely jaunt through town, and you're speeding through the countryside.
Yeah, on the countryside on my hot rod.
We're going to be live reacting to the last episode of Clone Wars ever for the third time.
Yeah.
But for real this time.
Finale.
This is a true detour for me because I've only watched most of the first season of Clone Wars and then this last one.
Right, which is amazing
followed...
considering that it's your favorite show and how much you like Ahsoka. You always talk about her.
I followed, well, that part's true. I followed along by synopsis, whereas you, of course, are a true cloney.
Believer.
It's kind of like a brony, but for the Clone Wars.
Sure, let's go with that.
Cloner.
No,
it's a big debate whether it's cloney or cloner.
Yeah, it's a hot topic. So we've already gone through the first 3 episodes, and this is the 4th one of the arc that wraps things up.
Afterwards, we'll probably talk about our impressions.
Yeah, so
now we'll watch it. Whoa.
This sounds like music when Padme's having her funeral and everything.
Yeah. Oh, they just said Ahsoka in there. I wonder if it really is about her. That would be so dumb to put a proper name in this kind of thing. The final part.
Still in hyperspace.
That was a cool shot.
These 4 episodes have picked up back to back, like they could easily be edited into a single movie.
Oh, I have no doubt that they will be.
Yeah.
Absolutely. On Blu-ray with bonus features.
So here we have
maybe
the only clone that Ahsoka cares about, Rex.
And the only person that Rex cares about Ahsoka, since he's just killing his brothers with no regrets.
They're just knocked out. It's fine.
They've worked with Jedi this long and been fighting Darth Maul, who was doing the same thing last episode, and they didn't see that coming?
Yeah.
Oh.
Stunning.
Well, using stun. That's better.
Did she set her lightsaber to stun?
R7. I know that fits what they did in Attack of the Clones, but R7s aren't supposed to be invented till the New Republic days. Darn you, new canon.
It's just a designation of an R2 unit that they repurpose it later for a type of droid.
Well, its head doesn't match its body, so it could be a chop shop.
That's definitely Chopper, isn't it?
He didn't escape. I let him out.
Re-executing Order 66. They haven't thought to... Okay. I still don't understand why those aren't transmitting directly into their helmets, but if they're external comms, you would think that they would know to lock off... Yeah. Well, that's cool. Very Imperial.
Yeah.
Very Imperial. No safety railings in the Republic either, so it's not just an Imperial lack of concern for safety.
Pretty much a galaxy-wide standard. Naboo, I mean... punched his helmet right off.
Oh yeah, they've still got those helmets. It is kind of ironic, her, helmet-painted troopers trying to kill her. Wow. Too late?
Too late, like they're gonna explode?
This is definitely a very different form of hyperspace than in Legends, but it's been that since they started taking casual comm calls in it back in Rogue One.
Drop in and out of atmosphere. It's fine.
You can communicate in the... What? Okay. I guess your hyperspace generators going offline damages the exterior of the ship somehow.
Just series of explosions, it looks like.
Let's see if it is Ryloth.
Yeah, like you predicted. It's going to be Ryloth.
And it'll be Chopper's origin story as she crashes with that black unit. But, yeah, it used to be if your hyperspace stuff goes offline, you're just stuck in hyperspace because you're not generating it. It's just another dimension that you're generating a door into and out of.
But now it's like warp drive.
Yep. But that was pretty... I mean, it's true. It's like a Jedi or Sith probably could just go into a ship and destroy it by getting to the central generator. But fortunately, it's too late to not have a painful exit as opposed to total destruction, which is what too late usually implies.
R7, open the main hangar doors.
I'm saying that like it's a big revelation, even though it was a really obvious thing to do. Did you say the hyperdrive was completely gone?
Yeah, like destroyed. You don't say.
They keep saying this like it's a huge revelation. You're crashing into a planet.
Hey,
Everyone knows this.
Crashing's bad.
And of course, they destroyed all the escape pods in the last episode.
Or they gave the order to.
Yes.
So obviously it was carried out.
They're clones. They're very efficient.
Right.
I like that it does have the Death Star alarm.
Yeah.
Although the more Imperial stuff you make Legacy Republic stuff, the more retroactively sinister you make the Republic.
Only at the very end in Revenge of the Sith, basically. End of the war.
Oh. It is the only way off the ship. That makes a lot of sense. That was pretty impressive. They are managing some pretty cool tone and spectacle with this one. The crashing ship will do that.
Let me look on you one more time with my own eyes. The ship will do that when it crashes.
I mean, I feel like this doesn't negate our complaints about the scope of the story just being Ahsoka's escape from Order 66 being the finale, but if that's all the story's going to be about, they're doing a bang-up epic scope job of it.
Yeah.
Like, this does feel suitably epic for a finale. Even if it's just a crisis that could have happened in any episode.
Right.
Well, minus the clones trying to kill them. I thought she was going to be like, we just need the ship to come to us, and she's going to Yoda lift it over to them, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to be Chopper.
Yeah, pretty much. Has to be.
This has to be Ryloth. But I wish they weren't being quite so on the nose with the Rebels prequel.
Are Jedi even allowed to surrender to Order 66? I thought the clones pretty much under orders to kill them no matter what they do.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, that's Jesse.
Okay, so yeah.
The problem is, Ahsoka Tano is no longer a Jedi. Hasn't been.
Wow.
They're actually rules lawyering it like we would.
Yeah, that's what we were saying.
Under special order from Darth Sidious to eliminate Ahsoka
No! Why do they know he's Darth Sidious? That makes no sense.
It's built into the chip.
Why would he do that?
I still argue that Cody calling Palpatine my lord makes no sense if he's just the Chancellor, because nobody else calls the Chancellor my lord.
But I still just think you can call him my lord and know that he's your, like, unquestioned commander, but there's no reason that has to include his identity.
I'm not even sure that they know the order's coming from Palpatine. I think they just see, because he's like wearing the hood and stuff when he gives the order.
I'm annoyed, though. I didn't actually hear how that argument ended because we were talking.
Oops.
Okay, but they really need to stop having her survive clone barrages. This is the 4th time now that something that killed all the Jedi Masters in the galaxy was survivable by Ahsoka Tano. They didn't need to do it that way. Like, I've already said that Dave Filoni is living out Pygmalion with Ahsoka Tano, but there's plot armor, and then there's...
Wow.
5 times. Do they only have one on the whole ship?
Pretty much. Looks that way.
And it's not even one from the ship. What happened to all their fighters and dropships
They were all on the other generators.
that already left?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just really weird. We've seen them have lots of auxiliary crafts before.
Yeah. Well, there'd be no point in destroying all the escape pods if there were other craft that people could use to escape.
I guess. How do you think this is going to work out for you?
Oh no, is Rex gonna die? So that's
And there leaves Darth Maul to reappear in Solo.
about it for Maul.
I think my thing is just this. There's zero part of the plan, if they can identify him on sight, that knowing he's Darth Sidious helps the plan, and 1,000 different ways it could completely destroy everything, especially once he's seen that the chips can malfunction. Like, it just makes no logical sense to me to build that knowledge into the clones of the secret identity that, oh, look, there's a Y-Wing conveniently.
Yeah.
Isn't that what Chopper was in when she found him?
Yep. I think so.
You'd think they would have learned their lesson about elevators the first time. Well, maybe it wasn't Chopper.
I mean, he could still have salvageable parts.
Now we see the traumatic self-sacrifice that made him the bitter individual he was. I've lost count. Six times, 7 times. Just saying,
Got a
there's
lot
really
more story to work through than the other Jedi.
there's really no reason that Ki-Adi-Mundi shouldn't have been able to do this.
This is true. I would agree.
Every video game protagonist, TV protagonist, they can all do this. Lightsaber deflecting is basically a passive action.
We just only witnessed the Jedi who were just really bad at lightsabers. The Twilight and Ki-Adi-Mundi. The one who got shot on a speeder, I think that's fair game.
Yeah, see, that I could see taking you out, like, or the Starfighter.
Yeah.
Just why blasters of all things? Of all things, from everything we've seen in the Star Wars franchise, would you choose as a thing
Yeah.
to kill Jedi? It's like the worst possible choice. But that's a Revenge of the Sith problem.
Yes.
Whoa, that was awesome. Finally get some respect for Y-Wings. It'd be awesome if she just dropped past him and he didn't notice her. She was just like,
Didn't look over. Re-edit that scene so he doesn't look to his right.
This would be the best level in the video game.
Would it though? Those are always kind of annoying. Push stick left, push stick right.
Look, it's like mirroring the first episode.
Wow.
She doesn't need a ship to get to the surface.
It's like poetry.
Rhymes.
That's what they say. Well, there's no droid in that Y-Wing, so.
Pull with the Force. That's how it works. That's literally how Leia was flying in The Last Jedi. Attached to a larger object, it pulls you.
Probably a lot easier in the vacuum of space.
Probably. Hope there's nobody down there. So this whole episode's pretty much just going to slot in between scenes. Bit of a time jump there, but mostly real time.
Yeah, in Revenge of the Sith, all of that took place before Obi-Wan returns to Coruscant during the day.
Right.
So after the night of Order 66 and before Obi-Wan and Yoda return to Coruscant.
I mean, this could be the next morning.
Could be, yeah. Did he just finish burying every clone that was on the Venerator? It's taken a while.
Okay. This would be a big time jump then.
Yeah. He's just a really fast digger.
Oh, same cloak from End of Rebels. It's her finale cloak. She only wears it for finales.
So she's just holding on to that cloak for a couple decades and then pulled it out again.
Was Jesse a character before this 4-episode arc that you remember?
Not that I remember, but it kind of feels like he was.
because they're treating a lot of significance to him.
I bet you he was.
I mean, they mentioned he was from the early days, but I don't know. That doesn't necessarily have to mean he was in the early seasons.
What, is she going to leave the lightsaber here? How did you say they got rid of the lightsabers in the book? Did you?
In the book,
How she lost
Rex
the lightsabers?
dug like fake graves for the both of them and made it seem like he had killed her but died in the process, and she left her lightsaber. Whoa, full-on Lambda shuttle.
Yeah.
That,
Okay, so that's kind of...
full-on snow troopers?
Yeah, so this is a time jump ahead. This is an Imperial era.
Yeah, gotta be.
So that they kind of adapted that a little bit. I bet.
Yeah, she left them there as trophies, like he took them after. Okay, I was going to say, this is awful early in the timeline, but yeah, this is clearly, we've jumped ahead to...
Yeah.
I didn't expect that.
So you can infer that off-screen everybody thought Ahsoka died in that crash.
Although then you'd have to ask who built the great... Whoa.
Right, yeah, he's going to find them. Vader's going to find the lightsabers and going to be like, she's dead now. Case closed.
Wonder how that'll jibe with when he sees her in... Well, he does say in Rebels, the apprentice lives, so he clearly thought that she was dead before that.
Yeah.
But he better not be too broken up about it, because he certainly wasn't when she showed up alive in Rebels.
A single tear falls from his Vader eye.
There's only one of them. Like, where is the other one? Did she keep that one?
I guess she lost it, yeah.
Is that same owl thing? Stop trying to make that a thing.
It's a thing. Okay.
That's weird. That's an interesting image to end the 4-episode arc on, but that feels like a really weird image to end the series on.
Why? It's a clone helmet. It's called the Clone Wars.
I mean, yeah, it's Halo Reach with Darth Vader reflected in it, but ending Clone Wars with Vader is interesting, reflected in a broken clone helmet, almost saying that era is over, this era has started.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know. The imagery works for me.
I mean, it's not bad imagery. I'm just saying it seems oddly specific to the story and to a Rebels prequel rather than anything that sums up what the Clone Wars was about. But that said, like I said, the whole thing where in the Ahsoka novel, to the best of my knowledge, there was a false grave for both Ahsoka and Rex, and both lightsabers were left there.
Yeah.
It feels like yet another instance, right? Just like, in the novelization of Force Awakens, Poe and Rey meeting
Right.
before she heads off for Luke, where it's like the whole story group, it's all canon, it's all gonna fit. Our entire job as a group is to make sure that everything Star Wars from now on is part of one continuing story. It's like, that's clearly out the window now. They literally wrote a novel about these events just a year or two ago.
Yeah.
Then they decided we want to make a thing, and they completely ignore those, which is what the visual media always does and always has done.
It sounds like they kind of went along the same idea, though. I mean...
Well, yeah, but I think that's just because
different.
that was the idea that Filoni had in the back of his head all along. Like, you talked about it informing what he did with Ahsoka and Maul and Vader. So it's like they gave him the same rough idea, but they didn't feel like they had to make this adaptation of the idea fit with the other adaptation of the idea that they published.
Right.
Once again, proving that the written tie-in media and comics and books is completely a second-class citizen to visual media, which is the way it's always been in every franchise.
Yeah.
It's just that Star Wars was trying to pretend that it wasn't going to be.
Yeah, it's always been that way in Star Wars, too, whenever it gets inconvenient.
Right.
The written media is...
That's part of why I was a Clone Wars hater in the early days, because a lot of the things that they were doing, even completely unnecessary things like backstory for Dengar and Greedo, was just like a wrecking ball through huge swaths of the EU at the time.
The EU only worked because George Lucas stopped making movies for so long.
Right, exactly. It seems to me, looking at this season as a whole, that the last big Obi-Wan Anakin story had to have happened basically in a previous season. It was like that deleted but still canon Kyber crystal adventure on Ilum or whatever. This was really a season all about Rex and Ahsoka with Anakin cameos.
Yeah, they didn't really need to do that middle arc with Ahsoka on Coruscant. I guess it's because it was like a missing piece. Like,
it is funny that they decided to fill in that missing piece of what happened to Ahsoka afterwards, because they still did like, what did we figure? It had to be a year time jump where she was just flying around with Bo-Katan trying to find Maul, and then it's like, oh, he was under our noses on Mandalore the whole time, apparently. And like we were talking about, it's not unprecedented because I feel like the movie Alien does the same thing, but it really is weird how this four-parter starts with Anakin and Obi-Wan. Like, it starts with looking like it is going to be a completely different story. Our protagonists, our focus characters, are ones that haven't even seen or possibly even thought about Ahsoka for over a year. And then midway through, about the time that Anakin gives her back her lightsabers, it completely switches to her story, and they just drop out of it entirely.
I think they just wanted to, like, they realized they couldn't do an Anakin Obi-Wan story, but they, like, wanted to have some moments in there at the start of this one to, like, squeeze it in.
Right.
Them in action.
One last hurrah with that. Basically, like the start of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where he gets the cross back, or even Revenge of the Sith and rescuing Palpatine itself. Like, one last adventure before everything gets really serious.
Yeah.
I thought it was really weird that they just kept giving Ahsoka so much information about everything that was going, especially that conversation with Obi-Wan. That was 100% high treason. Like, at least Mace Windu shuts her down, like, sorry, citizen, you're not a Jedi anymore.
I like that scene.
But Obi-Wan's just like, hey, by the way, civilian, your old friend, who's still a CIA operative, has been tasked to spy on the President of the United States, but I feel bad for him, so I'm going to tell you that. I'm sure that's not, like,
that was
literally illegal.
Mostly for the audience's benefit, because especially since she doesn't do anything with the information.
Yeah, they give her all this information that if she had been in real-time contact with the Jedi, they might have been able to avert what happens.
Yeah.
But none of it actually turned out to be important for her to have. Maybe it was just for, like, the kids that only had been watching Clone Wars and had never seen Revenge of the Sith to be able to follow along with the story.
Yeah, I think it is kind of a caveat for the audience. But I also liked your idea when we were piecing together the timeline that the morning before Obi-Wan leaves and says goodbye to Anakin for the last time, that he's just going around to everybody that knows Anakin and like saying, hey, could you maybe look out for Anakin a little bit? Like,
because that's the morning that Padme says he came by and he was worried about.
Yeah, so he came by to see Padme that morning, and then before he leaves, and he talked to Ahsoka as well. So I like that. That makes sense for the character.
And it really does just make Revenge of the Sith more tragic. How Anakin, I hate you, and it's like the last thing that Obi-Wan does when they're together in the same place at the same time before Order 66 is spend all day trying to look out for Anakin, but Anakin doesn't see any of that. I was just thinking, it's a heck of a lot of blind Jedi in Star Wars now. Have you noticed that? We got like Ram Koda, Force Unleashed, and we've got the other one from KOTOR. We've got Chirrut, we've got Kanan Jarrus. We've just got blind Jedi all over them. Speaking of Chirrut, I was not a big fan of Force Mind Meld. I like that they used the mantra that became a, but like, when does that become a thing?
It's funny how much it felt like a Vulcan mind meld.
It was like literally the hands on the side of the head, the speaking in unison. It was like Sarek and Kirk from Star Trek 3.
Like, I'm not opposed to them adding creative new force powers.
We were talking about that Cal, his power of like reading an object is actually what Anakin's doing when he has his second.
Right. So in Revenge of the Sith, Anakin has a dream at night at one point where he's like seeing Padme dying and everything. He has the vision. Then later on, after he says goodbye to Obi-Wan, there's like a quick cut of a very similar vision again, but there's no way it could be another night that had passed when he was dreaming. So either that's a flashback and him remembering the vision from earlier, or he was like having the vision during the day while he's awake. And then he's like, when he comes, or when it cuts back to him, he's holding an object and he's like, Obi-Wan was here, wasn't he?
And so Obi-Wan was in the vision this time.
It really did feel similar to how Cal can pick up an object or touch an object and sense like its previous owner.
In the EU, that was a special power that Quinlan Voss's people were especially adept at.
Huh.
It is funny that we've now seen Darth Maul and Kylo Ren ripping information out of, but when Vader wants to interrogate people in A New Hope, he's holding them up by the neck. He's bringing in an interrogation droid for injections, but he never once just tries Force information. What have you done with those plans?
Not every Jedi has the same skill set. So.
Yeah. Anakin only seems to be good at, like, precognition, Force pull, and lightsaber fighting. Like, I feel like almost every other Jedi, especially when you go in the shows and video games, has a more impressive and exotic and powerful display of Force powers than the Chosen One, who's supposed to be the strongest ever.
He just maxed out those few stats, you know?
Right. He's just like maxed out brawn and like mechanics, and that's it. Like all of his other skills are terrible.
Yep.
I will say, by the way, I do find it really crazy that when they deploy to Mandalore, they took 3 Venators. They literally know that they are fighting for their equivalent of Washington, D.C., like the capital of the entire Republic. And they think Maul is important enough to leave 3 Venators out of the fight.
But that Obi-Wan didn't even want to leave any clones. And Anakin was like, oh, you can have half of my personal squad, Ahsoka, to help out.
Half of my personal squad with 3 Star Destroyers that contribute nothing to the battle for Mandalore.
Yeah, there's no capital ships for them to fight. They're just up there.
And then when they bring Maul back, there's only 1 of them all of a sudden. Yeah. The other 2 aren't anywhere to be seen. So
right. Presumably
but that's after the battle is over. So it's like, what were they thinking?
I mean, it's possible that when we see them going down to Mandalore at the start of the episode, and we see the 3 Venators, maybe 2 of them left immediately for Coruscant after that.
I've been doing all my nitpicking and things I didn't like, but one thing I did really like in episode 2, when Maul is telling all of his crime bosses to go underground, I love that Dryden Voss, as far as I can tell, is the one on the right. Like, I did like that this actually did some things to tie not only into Rebels, although that Kanan cameo was blink and you'll miss it because we literally did.
Yeah.
When we were looking for it. But it ties into Solo. It ties into the sequel trilogy. Like, it was very nicely done. And I wasn't even thinking about how you were saying they're probably setting up her storyline in The Mandalorian. I have to say, though, realizing that this season was basically about Rex and Ahsoka, which only really became clear in the end here to me, does kind of help this story for me a bit. Because it's the finale to their story, and you could say, well, you know, the finale to a lot of other character stories was sort of told in parallel in the previous seasons.
The Clone Wars, obviously, it's about the clones and the war, but it hasn't always been about the clones as characters. Like, some stories are about the clones, some stories are about other characters, obviously, throughout the entire series. So to focus so heavily on this being like the end of, especially Rex and like clones that we've seen before, and Ahsoka when she wasn't even in the last season at all, I guess it's just kind of that's the only story left to tell. But it didn't really, I guess I was hoping for a little bit more of a general wrap up that applied more to events we'd seen before. And Maul's, I mean, his portrayal and character in these episodes was great, but the only thing that changed for him as a character is he doesn't have control over Mandalore anymore. He started with control over Mandalore and the crime syndicates, and now he just has control over the crime syndicates, and he's running. And the bit about him trying to warn them and like stop the Emperor's takeover was really interesting, and I liked that. But
I like that bit.
But it ended up not going anywhere either, obviously, because it couldn't.
I feel like in a lot of ways, Maul was basically there because you had to have him, and he helped give Ahsoka more of that bigger picture about what was happening with Anakin. I do feel like, though, honestly, while Maul's stuff didn't end up having a lot of a point, the whole idea that he was trying to bring down Palpatine and everything that happened with him in episode 2 and his confrontation with Ahsoka was like the major high point. To me, that and the ending sequence here, once they reached the landing bay and escaping from the ship, were the highlights of this 4-episode arc. So I'm still glad they had him, even if he ended up not having a lot of a point to the story they were actually telling.
And yeah, these were all really well done stories, I felt, for the most part. Yeah, I guess it ends up feeling a little unsatisfactory, but kind of that's the necessity of the time gap you're trying to fill, like you can't really do more than that.
Jesse was in the Krell and Umbara storyline. He was briefly in the first 4-part arc of this story, the Bad Batch and everything.
Oh.
And then he briefly appeared during the whole Fives chip malfunctioning storyline. So it's funny, because the way that they talked about Maul recognized him as being older than I would have guessed him as like an early season 1 or 2 kind of trooper.
I kind of, when Maul said that, they were kind of leading up to some kind of retcon where it'd be like, okay, the older clones have the chip and the newer clones don't. They're just orders.
Loyal. I would have liked that, but...
So the Bad Batch has to have been the adventure that Anakin had immediately before this one, considering how pregnant Padme was.
Was she?
Yeah, do you remember when, like...
Oh, that's right.
Has the whole conversation with Anakin, and she's, like, clearly showing.
But Anakin hasn't noticed yet.
He's completely oblivious.
That's really weird. That means that we would have had, like... The Ahsoka 4-parter in the middle takes place like a year before the stories before and after it.
Yep.
That's just strange. So, do we want to wrap up here looking at the timeline?
Yeah, let's do that.